Most people will tell you the path to wealth is patience. Buy and hold. Let compounding do the work. Live like Buffett, who became one of the richest people on earth by waiting. It's true, and it's the most honest advice in personal finance. But there's a hidden problem with this advice that almost nobody talks about. If slow wealth means locking your money away for decades, only to truly enjoy it at 50 or 60 or 80, what if by the time you get there, you no longer have the energy, the body, or the people to enjoy it with? And before that question even matters, you hit a more immediate one. The bills are due this month. The down payment on a house feels impossibly far away. Your aging parents need help. Your partner wants a wedding. The math of patient compounding collapses against the math of right now, and most people quietly conclude they can't afford to be patient. The desire to get rich fast usually isn't greed. It's pressure. It's love. It's a person looking at the people they care about and feeling like they're failing them. In today's video, we're going to take apart the contradiction sitting at the center of nearly everyone's financial life and rebuild it. By the end, you'll know how to save responsibly for the future, fully live in the present, and stop carrying the guilt that pushes so many people into bad financial decisions. Let's start by being honest about where the traditional slowly get rich advice actually breaks down. The first problem is that some life experiences have an expiration date. When you're 22, you have very little money, but you have a group of friends, time, and a body that can sleep on a floor and feel fine the next morning. You can throw a cheap backpack on, fly to Mexico City or Guatemala, eat street tacos, stay in $20 hostels, and have one of the best weeks of your life. The whole trip costs less than a single weekend at a resort would later. Now, picture the same trip at 55. You finally have the money. You can stay at the nice hotel. But your back doesn't tolerate hostels anymore. Your stomach can't take the street food anymore. And the friends who would have gone with you in your 20s, they have kids in school now, mortgages, jobs they can't leave on short notice. The trip you could have taken at 22 is not the same trip at 55. It's not even close. If you spend your 20s and 30s saving every dollar, refusing every experience that costs money, you don't get to redeem those experiences later. They quietly disappear. There's a hospice nurse in Australia named Bronnie Ware who spent years caring for people in their final weeks of life. She wrote down what they regretted most and turned it into a book called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. The top 2: I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, and I wish I hadn't worked so hard. Not one of her patients regretted not saving more money. Every regret was about missing the chance to live, to be with people, to do the thing they actually wanted to do. That should land. We all quietly assume we'll make it to 80 in good shape. Most of us probably will. But planning a life on that assumption, trading every present joy for a future bank balance, is a bet, and not a small one. The second problem is that real life rarely lets you go slowly. Traditional financial advice tells you to be patient. What it ignores is that the moment you walk out your front door, you collide with what sociologists call the social clock, the unwritten schedule that tells you what you're supposed to have accomplished by what age. In your 20s, you're dating, and dating costs money. By 30, you're supposed to be married, which costs more money, plus a down payment on a house. By 40, the kids need school, the parents are getting old, the mortgage is real, the medical bills are real, and the cost of a normal middle-class life turns out to be enormous. So, when someone tells a 30-year-old, just save $500 a month, and in 30 years you'll have $1 million, the math is correct, and the advice is useless. The 30-year-old in question can't make rent comfortably. Their partner is living with them in a one-bedroom apartment that feels too small. They cannot wait 30 years for the math to work. They need this year to work. This is why most people abandon the slow wealth strategy. Not because they're undisciplined, because their actual life made it impossible. And underneath that practical pressure, there's something more painful that nobody talks about. Most people who want to get rich quickly aren't doing it out of greed. They're doing it out of guilt. You watch your partner spend the prettiest years of her life sharing a too-small apartment with you. You watch your kid not be able to go on the school trip because you said you couldn't afford it. You watch your parents, who worked their whole lives, still counting coupons at the grocery store. And there's a voice in your head that says it on a loop. If I could just make money faster, none of them would have to live like this. That feeling is what makes ordinary, intelligent people start ignoring the index funds and start looking at high-leverage trading accounts, get-rich-quick schemes, anything that promises to compress 30 years of wealth building into one. They believe they're fighting for their families. They're actually walking into a psychological trap. Sendhil Mullainathan, a behavioral economist at Harvard, has a name for what's happening inside that person's head. He calls it the scarcity mindset. When you feel you're failing the people you love, when you believe you owe them more than you can give, your brain enters a state of extreme cognitive narrowing. He calls the result tunnel vision. Picture holding an empty toilet paper roll up to your eye. You can see a small circle directly in front of you, and nothing else. That's what guilt does to financial decision-making. You see the gap, the bill you can't pay, the house you can't afford, the trip you can't give your kid, and you lose the ability to see anything around it. The risks attached to the quick money option disappear from view. Your IQ doesn't drop, but your judgment does, dramatically. You tell yourself you're investing in your family's future. You move your savings into a leveraged position. You borrow money to amplify the bet. And then it goes wrong, because it usually does. You wanted to buy your wife a nicer couch. You end up losing the rent. You wanted to send your kid to a better school. You end up in debt, and your house becomes a place where people fight. That's when you realize the guilt didn't help. It stole your judgment and turned your love for your family into a high-risk gamble. The intention was to give them a better life. The result is the opposite. So, if you can't afford to wait 30 years, but you also can't afford to bet the house, what do you actually do? You don't abandon the slow wealth philosophy. You upgrade it. Here are 3 mental shifts that, if you actually take them in, will dissolve most of the financial anxiety you're carrying right now. The first shift: redefine what slow means. We tend to assume slow wealth means deprivation, living like a monk until 50, saying no to everything. That's wrong, and it's the reason most people give up on the strategy. The real reason to go slowly isn't to delay your life. It's to make sure you don't crash. When you take on leverage to compensate for guilt, when you bet the savings on a get-rich scheme, you're not protecting your family. You're walking them to the edge of a cliff. Real responsibility is giving the people you love a stable floor. As long as you don't borrow to invest, as long as you stay away from the high-risk shortcuts, as long as you earn steadily and save a little each month, your family is not going to face a catastrophic loss. That alone is worth more than people give it credit for. Slow wealth is the discipline of refusing the fantasy of getting rich overnight. The moment you genuinely stop imagining that next month you'll be a millionaire, the anxiety quiets. You realize that steady is enough. A family with no debt, with no one lying awake at 3 a.m. worrying about a margin call, that life is the gift. People underestimate how much that's worth. The second shift, and this is the most important one in the whole video, experiences compound too. Buffett famously said that life is like rolling a snowball. Find wet enough snow and a long enough hill, and the snowball gets bigger and bigger. He meant compounding money. But Bill Perkins, in his book, Die with Zero, points out something most people miss. You don't have one snowball, you have 2. The money snowball and the memory snowball, and both of them compound. If you're 25 and you take your partner on a cheap road trip, you get caught in the rain, you sleep in the car, you laugh about it the whole way home. That experience goes into your memory bank, and for the next 50 years, that memory pays interest. At 30, you'll laugh about it. At 40, when the marriage is going through a hard year, you'll remember being 25 together in that car. At 80, in a chair somewhere, that memory will be one of the things you actually own. That's the compounding of experience. The earlier you make the deposit, the longer it has to compound, and the larger the eventual return. If you postpone every experience until 50 so you can save more money, the memory snowball never gets a chance to roll. The hill is too short. Real slow wealth isn't draining your life to fill a bank account. It's rolling both snowballs at once, the money and the memories, down the same hill, side by side. The third shift: redefine what making them suffer actually means. Find out what your family is actually asking for. We've established that the engine behind most bad financial decisions is guilt, the feeling that you're making the people you love suffer. But it's worth asking, do you actually know what they want? A child development researcher named Ellen Galinsky ran a study on more than 1,000 families. She wrote about it in a book called Ask the Children. Before she talked to any kids, she asked the parents to predict what their children would wish for if given one wish to change something about their parents. Most parents guessed it would be either make more money and buy me more things, or spend more time with me. When she actually asked the children, the answer broke a lot of parents. The most wished for change wasn't more money, it wasn't more toys, it wasn't even more time. It was this: I wish my parents weren't so stressed and tired. The thing you're working frantically to fix, the income, the lifestyle, the next house, is not what your child is asking for. Your child is asking for the version of you that isn't anxious, that isn't furrowing their brow at the kitchen table at 11 p.m., that isn't snapping at small things because they're carrying something big. The same is true with partners. Harvard ran a study on adult well-being for 85 years, the longest one of its kind. The finding, after 8 decades of data, was that the strongest predictor of a happy life isn't the size of your bank account or the size of your house. It's the quality of your close relationships. So if you're carrying guilt because you can't give your partner a luxury lifestyle right now, hear this clearly. That's not what they're asking for. What they're asking for is the experience of building something together. 2 people in their 20s or 30s, sitting at a kitchen table, working out a budget, deciding what to save and what to invest, watching the account grow a little each month because of choices you made together. That shared work is what's called foxhole bonding, the thing you built side by side. That is the unbuyable part of a marriage. No future wealth can give it to you later if you skip it now. By all means, pursue wealth, build the life, but don't try to shortcut your way out of the patient phase, because the patient phase is where the actual relationship gets made. Now that the framework is in place, let me give you a practical system you can start using this week. It's a way to split your income that lets you build wealth, live in the present, and stop carrying guilt, all at the same time. Set up 3 accounts. The first account: living expenses. This is the one that keeps the lights on. Rent, groceries, utilities, insurance. About 50% of your monthly income should flow through here. The discipline of this account is simple. Accept your current income level and live a life that matches it. Don't look at what people on Instagram are buying. Unplug from comparison. Find the quiet pleasure of running a small life carefully with someone you love. That's not a downgrade. That's the foundation. The second account, the slow wealth core. This is what builds the long future. Every paycheck, you move 10 to 20% of your income, more if you can, into this account, and it gets invested. A broad market index fund like the S&P 500 is the obvious choice. If you've done real research and you have conviction in specific quality companies, you can add those too. Slow wealth doesn't mean only index funds forever. It means investing in things with genuine long-term value, not lottery tickets. This account has one rule: pretend it doesn't exist. No matter how anxious you feel, no matter how guilty you feel toward your family, you never touch it. You never leverage it. You never time the market with it. The math is simple. If you put $500 a month into a broad index at a long-term average return of around 10%, after 20 years, you have more than $380,000. That's not a get-rich-quick number. That's a real moat around your family's future. The third account, and this is the most important one, the no regrets experience account. Each month, you put aside another 10 to 20% of your income. This money is for time-limited experiences and memories with the people you love. A nice dinner out with your partner once a month, a small trip every year with the kids, that guitar class you've wanted to take since you were 20. When you spend this money, you do not feel guilty. You do not second-guess it, because you're not wasting it. You're depositing into the memory bank. You're buying compounding interest on experiences that pay out across the next 60 years. Now, you might ask, am I really just supposed to save patiently and never try to accelerate? Of course not. There's a way to chase faster growth, and it has nothing to do with gambling your savings. The strategy is to build what Nassim Taleb calls anti-fragility. Put simply, take a lot of shots where the cost of failure is tiny and the upside of success is enormous. Expose yourself to opportunity, cheaply and repeatedly. The unusually good news is that the present is the best moment in history for ordinary people to do this because of AI. A subscription to the best AI tools costs maybe $20 or $30 a month. Traditional entrepreneurship used to cost tens of thousands of dollars before you knew if it would work. Now, the failure cost is the price of a dinner out. A common mistake is thinking you have to learn programming or machine learning to use AI to make money. You don't. What you need is volume of use. Use it daily. Use it for everything. Push it to give you better answers when the first ones aren't good enough. Over weeks, you'll start to build your own intuitions, your own prompt libraries, your own working patterns. The thing you used to do slowly by hand, a marketing plan, a design draft, a piece of analysis, you can now produce in a fraction of the time at higher quality. That's a real edge. Once you have that edge, you can productize it, take it to clients on the side, build a small side stream while keeping your day job. You don't have to quit. You don't have to touch the slow wealth account. You spend the cost of one nice dinner a month experimenting, and most of those experiments don't work. But the one that does, the one where you catch a trend, find a market, or build something that takes off, that's the moment your wealth building accelerates, not by gambling with the principal, by expanding the surface area where good outcomes can find you. This is what intelligent people actually mean by moving fast. Spending almost nothing to take many small bets and waiting for one to land, not betting the savings on a single roll of the dice. The deeper question, after all of this, is one most people never quite ask out loud. Are we working for some imagined future where we're finally free, or are we trying to live now? The honest answer isn't one or the other. It's a strategy of focus. For things with high certainty, the broad market index, you stay patient and keep investing. Time is your edge. For things with low certainty but enormous upside, new tools, new skills, small side experiments, you expose yourself constantly, but at a cost so small that failure barely registers. The upgraded version of slow wealth isn't asking you to become a monk and wait until your hair is gray before you order a nice meal. It isn't asking you to walk around carrying guilt about your family every day. As long as your family is healthy, as long as you can show up for them as a calm, present, emotionally stable person, even while you're still an ordinary person grinding through ordinary years, believe me, you're already on the most stable and the most genuinely happy version of the path. That's the version that actually arrives. After watching this, the move tonight isn't to make a spreadsheet about your mortgage and panic about your future. It's to buy something small your partner likes on the way home. Take a walk together. Plan a small weekend trip. Start rolling the memory snowball. Get slowly rich and live deliberately at the same time.